Ooh. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Woodlawn Station. We're going to jump right into it. Colin, go on your rant.
So the first couple episodes of this show, we talked exclusively about baseball, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think that was for the better because this New York Giants team doesn't deserve me to talk about them. They have the worst record in the NFL. They are tied with the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. They sit second. Listen, going into the year, when we did other shows before, I told you guys that I thought this was the worst offense in the NFL. Plain and simple, because they had no talent on offense. You just can't continue to run out Daniel Jones. We saw Daniel Jones in 2023. We saw, although he got hurt, right? We saw him tear his ACL. The games that he played, he was awful. And I know people are going to blame the O-line, like, oh, the O-line wasn't good that year. He's never had a good offensive line. This year, the Giants, when Andrew Thomas was healthy, he got hurt afterwards. They brought in guys like John Runyon, Jermaine Elamanour, Greg Van Roten. They had a pretty good O-line this year when Andrew Thomas was healthy. Daniel Jones was still awful. We sit here right now. He has 2,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 7 picks. He still can't win on primetime. He consistently cannot play good at home behind the home crowd. Maybe it's because he feels the home fans don't support him. But it's over because they lost to the Carolina Panthers in Germany. You lost, and I know it's better for us. Listen, I was happy that they lost because I wanted to get a top draft pick. They lose to the Carolina Panthers in Germany. Brian Dable goes in the press conference. He does not commit to Daniel Jones because for the past couple of weeks, Brian Dable has been committed to Daniel Jones, saying he's our guy going forward. I don't know why the hell he was doing that. I'm not sure if John Mara came to him and said, you have to play Daniel Jones. I'm not sure if he was just trying to prove a point. I couldn't tell you why Daniel Jones is still playing the past couple of weeks, especially when, we were supposed to technically still be fighting for a playoff spot because he does not give us our best chance to win by any imagination. But anyway, Joe Shane had his press conference yesterday as well. He said that we're evaluating our options. So I fully expect that the Daniel Jones era of New York Giants football has eventually, finally come to a merciful end. So,
it's not working.
Sound effect wasn't working, unfortunately.
We're going to play applause because it's finally over.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Applause.
We're going to have a real quarterback.
So, let's talk about the Daniel Jones era of Giants football. So, Eli Manning, obviously, the best quarterback this franchise has ever seen. Daniel Jones was handpicked to be the successor in 2019. That 2019 draft class, I said it back then, and I'll say it again now. That was not the year the Giants should have drafted a quarterback. Because you look back at that class, Kyler Murray was the number 1 overall pick, and he's had a very good NFL career to this point. Consensus number 1 guy. He's done good stuff in Arizona. Outside of Daniel Jones, it was Dwayne Haskins, may he rest in peace. Then it was Drew Lockett, and after that, guys who just really not even NFL level. If they had waited one more year, you get the 2020 draft class. Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts. Who else is in that class? Justin Herbert. You could have had any of those guys be the quarterback for the New York Giants. Think of how much better of a state this franchise would be in if they had just waited a year. Or if they went back in 2018, say you don't draft Saquon Barkley, you could have had Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I know hindsight's 2020, but listen, Daniel Jones played in 2019. He had 24 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Actually, 24 touchdowns is going to go by far the most touchdown passes he ever threw in his career, which is crazy to say. But back in 2019, he was a different player. He fumbled a lot. It was a big problem. He led the NFL in turnovers his first couple of years, threw a lot of interceptions, a lot of bad fumbles. But he aired the ball down the field. Him and Darius Slayton had a pretty good connection that rookie year. He was pretty good at throwing the deep ball. We move over to 2020, though. That's when Pat Shermer got fired. The Joe Judge era. Oh, my God. The Joe Judge, Jason Garrett offenses we had to watch for those years. He just regressed. He still had turnovers. He didn't get touchdowns. And, the Giants in 2021 specifically, I remember those days when he got hurt. Mike Glennon took over. Jake Fromm. That was about as unwatchable of an offense as I had ever seen. And I thought no matter what, it can never stoop lower than that. And because the offense was that bad, 2022, Brian Dable comes into the picture. And Brian Dable is an offensive guru, right? He's a guy who we saw really the main reason why Josh Allen was developed in Buffalo, one of the best play callers in the NFL. He basically, actually, no, not basically. He saved Daniel Jones' career for an extra 3 years. There's no question about it. Daniel Jones was given a 5th-year option where the Giants basically said, this is your last year, 2022. You're not worth the money. You have not had a good NFL career. But Brian Dable, just because of how good of a coach that he was, how good his schemes were, he was able to make Daniel Jones a winning quarterback. They went 9-7-1. Jones had 15 touchdowns and 5 picks. Not an impressive stat line, but all those dumb turnovers he used to make completely out the window. Did not turn the ball over. Did not fumble as much. However, all his explosiveness, all those deep ball plays, completely gone. All Daniel Jones did, and the reason why he was successful is because he flew through short intermediate passes, 5-10 yards, and he just stopped airing the ball down the field anymore. It didn't happen. That's why guys like Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, that's why these guys were such key contributors to that 2022 Giants team. It's because it's just like they schemed just short passes. Like you weren't going to get Darius Slayton going down the field anymore. Just that was completely taken out of the offense. Granted, it worked though. And because of that, the Giants were able to get their first and only playoff wins in Super Bowl 46. I'll never forget that game. Listen, in a way, for me to look back on Daniel Jones' career, it's such a weird thing because despite the fact that he was a guy who was not good, not a good quarterback, I rooted for him. I did because it's a tough situation because he shouldn't have been the 6th overall pick in the 2019 draft. He should have never been taken there. He should have never been put into that situation. He was a 2nd-round talent at best. But from the get-go, I mean, fans, I remember back in 2019, he goes to Yankee Stadium. He throws out the first pitch, mercilessly booed by the fans. Like everyone going into that year, no one wanted him, and everyone hated the fact the Giants took him. And like, you know, even like I said, that rookie year is somewhat able to prove people wrong. We were ready to move on. He has that year. He'll always have that, right? He's a guy who went on the road and won a playoff game for the Giants. I mean, he was very bad in that divisional round game against the Eagles, but he gets that contract, 4 years, $160 million. I still remember that day that contract was signed. I remember I thought that Daniel Jones should have made $20 million a year for 2 years. Obviously, he doubled that. And that's the reason why we are where we are now. It's the reason why you couldn't pay Saquon Barkley. It's the reason why these past years have been so awful. They still, I believe they rank last in the NFL in points right now at 15 points per game. We see how offensive driven this league is. The fact that you score 15 points a game is absolutely atrocious. I don't care what anyone says. You're not going to win games. And I supported this defense. I haven't been able to get into the good of this team so far because Daniel Jones has been mostly what's negated the bad of this. Joe Shane had a pretty good draft class this year. Malik Neighbors, granted, I don't blame this as much on Malik. He was very good the first couple of weeks of that season. He's fallen off recently. I think if he actually had a real competent NFL quarterback, he would be pretty good. Tyler Newman has been pretty good at safety. Andrew Phillips, our 3rd-round corner out of Kentucky, has been a great nickel corner. I think he's a guy who's going to be a huge contributor for this team going forward. Theo Johnson at tight end as well. He's gotten a couple catches. Tyrone Tracy Jr. has been a big revelation in the 5th round, really kind of vindicating Shane's point that you don't need to pay a running back. Tracy's been a steal in the 5th round, been our starting running back going forward. He had a tough fumble in the loss of the Panthers in overtime, which basically kind of sealed that one. But listen, you're not going to win in the NFL if you don't have a quarterback. I think the pieces are there. You have a head coach who I trust. Giants fans are saying, fire Dable, fire Shane. I don't think you do. They never wanted Daniel Jones. He was not their guy. He was the Gettleman regime. I think you give Dable and Shane a chance to draft their own quarterback this year. Only thing that concerns me, though, is we hear about Shedeur Sanders. We hear about Cam Ward. A lot of people think that this might not be the best quarterback draft class. I think that 2025 is better. So once again, it's tough for me to say because if Dable and Shane don't get the quarterback position right next year, they're going to get fired. It's just the way the NFL is. But that could also be bad because if you take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, you don't think he's the guy, and he ends up not being very good, 2025 could be a better class. You make the same mistake you did in 2019 drafting Daniel Jones. So it's an impossible situation to be put in, but that's why last year I wanted the quarterback so badly. You both can remember me talking about back during draft season how much I wanted Jaden Daniels, Drake May. What do you know? Both those guys have been pretty damn good for the Commanders and the Patriots, right? They've had their moments. It's almost like if you draft a young rookie quarterback with talent, your team can improve. I mean, we saw Washington last year. And granted, I will say, I think this Giants team this year has more talent than that Washington team had last year. And Washington's 7-3 right now. It goes to show you how much getting that one guy, that one right answer under center can change everything. Because the Giants have pieces, like I was saying, too. You have a dominant pass rush. You have Lawrence, Thibodeau, Burns. You have a dynamic, receiving core now. Malik Neighbors, Walt Robinson's the other two. I'm not saying these guys are stars, but with a right quarterback, these guys can play well at a high level. The O-line's getting better, much better. Evan Neal even came in on Sunday and did pretty good, which you remember how much we were bashing Evan Neal in the past. Like I said, Dable at head coach. I think this is a team that can win games if you have the quarterback. Just you can't have a guy who's the worst quarterback in the league. So when I look back on the Daniel Jones era of Giants football, because once again, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but we know Drew Lock's going to start in a couple weeks against the Buccaneers. Maybe Tommy DeVito gets in there as well. When I look back on the Daniel Jones era of Giants football, it's going to be one of the worst times ever to be a fan of this team. But it just makes it all the more remarkable, all the more just baffling the fact that 2022 team happened. I mean, it was better for me. Listen, I'll always cherish the fact that I was actually able to see a Giants team win a playoff game past the age of 7 years old. I enjoyed seeing that. It was nice to finally see that. But at the end of the day, you have to wonder how much damage that win did to this franchise because of the fact of how this Daniel Jones contract affected us. I'm glad we finally get to move on. We'll see if Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, anyone else is the answer. But I mean, Chris, you've watched the Giants for a long time as well, too. What do you make of Daniel Jones' career?
No, I've been watching the Giants for a while, and most of that's been in the Daniel Jones era. Haven't watched much this year. It's been garbage every single week, just trash. What did Germany do to deserve that matchup, by the way? Panthers, Giants. I mean, come on.
The fans had a lot of fun, but listen, awful NFL product.
Yeah, and I mean, congrats to the Panthers, who might be keeping him at quarterback.
Yeah, Bryce Young. I mean, he was benched for Andy Dalton. Bryce Young again in that game. He threw for 125 passing yards. I'm going to give you guys some context here. The lowest amount of points a team scored on the Panthers all year was 22 points. This Giants offense with a $160 million quarterback could only put up 17. I also want to go back to that flea flicker play because that was awful.
Dude.
Daniel Jones had Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson wide open down both sides of the field. It was a 3rd and 1 play. Dable took a shot there. Once again, I think Brian Dable is a good play caller. I think he's a good offensive mind. Not a lot of other guys. I mean, Joe Judge would not have taken that 2022 team to the playoffs. Pat Shermer would not have taken that 2022 team to the playoffs. But 2 guys wide open down the field. All Daniel Jones has to do is throw a wide open 20-yard pass. He takes a sack. And he said he couldn't see it. How do you not see it? 2 receivers wide open down the middle of the field. And then Brian Dable saying, it was my fault. It was bad coaching. No, it's not your fault, Brian Dable. Yeah. Own up to the fact Daniel Jones has to make that play. If you pay a guy $160 million to play the quarterback position, he has to make that play. And I'm tired of all this accountability because we heard John Mara for years say, we did everything we could to fail this kid. Granted, I do agree with you. The Giants teams have not been good around him. But eventually, at some point, talent will show out. Despite how bad everything around you may be, the talent will show out at some point. And for Daniel Jones, it never did. 2022, he was merely a complimentary piece.
Yeah.
He did enough to win, but that offense, and I said it before, and I will always forever say it, it was Saquon Barkley's offense.
Yeah, and exactly. And I feel like Jones, it's like he lacks football awareness. He's getting yelled at every week by Brian Dable like a kid. It's just a mess. It's
like in timeout.
Exactly.
Sitting on the bench and Dable's just standing over him, yelling at him.
Dude, and you have 2 other quarterbacks, right? I know Drew Lock's not exciting. We have our own thing with Drew Lock because we got his autograph that time.
Very nice guy. For the
awesome. Really great guy.
Big Drew Lock fan.
But like, how much is he really going to make a difference? I mean, anything at this point. Tommy DeVito, the guy who sparked some magic last year, is just rotting away on the bench. He's there.
And I like DeVito as well, too. But, it also brings up the problem because just how inept Daniel Jones was. Say Locke and DeVito come in there, and I think at this point, they're both better quarterbacks than Daniel Jones. What if they start winning games? You're in the exact same situation you were last year.
No, it's true.
That's a better problem. Like, people have made the argument that keeping Daniel Jones may be the best to preserve the tank. Like, imagine you putting Locke or DeVito, and because of that, you can't get Sanders or Ward in next year's draft. It's what happened last year.
Exactly. And there's also something to be said about the lack of success. And I know we're seeing Jaden Daniels and Drake May play pretty well for their teams, but I know Caleb Williams is not off to the best start ever. And we've seen a lot of Trevor Lawrence still hasn't reached his full potential. Baker Mayfield, it took him a while for him to figure out something in Tampa Bay, which wasn't even, the original team he was drafted by, number 1 overall, the Browns. So listen, it doesn't mean that if the Giants go with a rookie quarterback, everything's going to be, great again, fine and dandy. But it just that's what makes it all the more frustrating how long they've kept Daniel Jones, is that they're going with the same product. And now they're going to need probably give him 3 or 4 more years after they draft that rookie quarterback to finally figure it out if he's even the right one. So, it's really frustrating. I'm glad they figured out the defense. They're figuring out everything else, right? Brian Dable's a good coach, but I don't know.
Are you looks maxing right now?
I was not. I was actually looking up Daniel Jones stats because I wanted to. I'll give you one right here. I just saw Daniel Jones in his career: 70 games, 70 free turnovers, more turnovers than games played. And then don't even get me started on that god awful primetime record. What is it, 1-15 on primetime?
I mean, we were there.
Yeah, we saw 2 of them. We saw 2 of those primetime losses. I've seen Daniel Jones play at MetLife Stadium 2 times. The offense has averaged 5 points a game in those 2 games.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that a football game could be that boring. I mean, watching the Giants. I'm sorry, we're there watching the Joe Burrow show, and we're trying to see the Giants win. I mean, it's like you're asking for too much at that point if you want to see the Giants win. It's awful.
And that's the same way I felt in 2021. I felt this too many times with this Daniel Jones offense, or at least just recent average Giants football. It feels like they can't score points. You just don't trust them. When they get in the red zone, you don't think they're going to score a touchdown. Whenever they
Right.
step on the field, like once I see them go down by 14 points, I think it's an insurmountable lead. That should never be the case in the modern NFL. Scoring is up. The offensive play has been better than ever before. And the Giants seems like they're stuck in the 1980s with their offense. I can't get over it.
And not only that, I think, right, you look at the other side same stadium, right? The Jets.
Oh, you want to talk about the Jets?
But
Oh,
what I'm saying with the Jets,
not really.
the Jets are a mess, complete mess. What's going on over there? They're going to miss the playoffs.
Just as much of a train wreck as the Giants.
Aaron Rodgers, I think, because I don't know what they're going to do next. I mean, you're hearing I don't know if he's hinted at it, but what does Aaron Rodgers do after this year?
He actually came out and said he does not intend to retire. But once again, I don't think the Jets bring him back.
Right.
But also, if you're the Jets too, like say you win 6 games, you're at the 10th pick in the draft. Like, who are you going to draft that's going to replace Rodgers?
So, but what I will say about the Jets is I give them credit for at least making that move.
Absolutely.
Right. And Zach Wilson, right? You see the stat that the Jets were probably better off last year with him than they are this year without him, or with Rodgers playing every game. And Rodgers is in complete control pretty much this whole year. But at least they went and tried.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought up Aaron Rodgers because that reminds me of something the Giants did this offseason. They brought in Russell Wilson for a meeting. And they were like, maybe we can see if someone could compete with Jones because let's face it, I said it last year. He shouldn't have been the quarterback this year.
No.
There should have been some competition. You know, want to know what they told Russell Wilson, I'm sorry, when he walked into that building, they said, we can't guarantee that you can compete for the starting job. Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl champion. He is a multi-time Pro Bowler. I get that the Denver tenure wasn't as good, but you see what he's doing in Pittsburgh right now? They're winning football games.
He's undefeated, right?
Exactly. Undefeated as a starter. You're telling me that Russell Wilson was not good enough to compete with Daniel Jones for that job? How much loyalty do you have to have for a guy who over 6 years has not even played like an above average NFL quarterback? How do you not bring in Russell Wilson? Granted, I think the Steelers' job was a much better job than the Giants, but the arrogance to just suggest that, we don't need him in the building. How can you say that? I can't get over that.
They're obsessed with Daniel. They love him. They love everything about him. I don't know what there is to like about him. He's not, a character. He's not a very, standout performer in any way, in anything. I mean, he's kind of just
I would
there.
say he's good mobility, but once again,
that's
not
it's like everyone. Every young quarterback should be able to have legs. I mean, you just think. I mean, again, it's just, and you mentioned this a couple of days ago, just how you forgot how fun football can be.
Absolutely, and I've said that before. I love watching the NFL. I always said it to you guys. It's my favorite sport. The Giants always been the team I've been the most loyal to. But it's just so many years in the past 7 years. I tune out the season in November because there's no chance of making the playoffs. It's every single year. I believe the number is 7 out of the last 8 years. We have started 2-7 or worse.
Yeah.
It's an unfathomably bad era of football. Bad. 2022, I was on top of the world because it wasn't the best team ever. But you know what? I was able to at least enjoy watching them for the entirety of the season. And I can't even imagine what it's like being a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they take it for granted, but teams at the bottom of the NFL, the season for me, 7 out of the past 8 years has been over by Halloween. It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
We got a Thanksgiving game coming up.
The Cowboys are also done as well.
Yeah, they got Cooper Rush, right? What's going on
probably
there?
Probably going to see Drew Lock and Cooper Rush and everyone's eating their Thanksgiving dinner.
That's a hell of a matchup.
It's going to be a dynamic matchup to watch.
What did we do to deserve that?
Giants would love to mess up the shit that are thinking that one.
I mean, what else is there to say, man? It's like
might finally have a win against the Cowboys.
And that's no matter what, they still can't beat the division. And I saw Giants fans are so long take for granted, Washington. We always beat Washington. Guess what? You're not going to beat Washington anymore. No. You're not. They're a very good football team now. Philly's still there. Philly tormented us. Saquon, what was it? I think he had 200 rushing yards, career high, nearly his career high against us. Dallas, when Dallas is healthy, we can't beat Dallas. It's just
Philly's got to be favorites in the NFC or up there, right?
I would say Detroit. I think Detroit.
Detroit, hands down. But Philly's got to be up there. I mean, they've been a rolling team.
Actually, tomorrow night we're going to see Philly versus Washington. That's going to be a great game, basically for the NFC East title, pretty much. But it just goes to show you, all these other teams in the NFC East, the NFC East is the most kind of volatile division in football. They've not had a repeat winner ever. So we're talking the past 20 years of flip-flops between the Eagles, the Cowboys, whatever. The Giants have still not won that division since 2011. So it's flip-flop every year, but it just flip-flops between mostly Dallas and Philly. But even Washington's a franchise that gets made fun of a lot. At least they did during the Dan Snyder days. They still won that division more than we did. And we're supposed to be one of the proudest organizations in the league. We have Hall of
Mm-hmm.
Famers through the door. We have 4 Super Bowl championships. And yet it feels like we're almost, and no offense to the Jets, of course, it feels like we're almost on the same level as the Jets. It feels like we are the Jets now.
Yeah.
And I just don't get how that can happen. I don't get why that would ever happen.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm very depressed now.
I don't even know what else to say. It's the truth. It just feels so, the Giants are just so incompetent. And again, you see what like some of the Texans, even with CJ Stroud and all these teams that are just finding success in between the Giants making the playoffs in 2022 and now.
I feel like in New York sports in general, obviously the Yankees are always the biggest brand. They're always the team. I feel like for a long time, the Giants were number 2. Like they had the second most success in the city. But like it almost feels like now, I mean, I've had this interaction in public. I can't even tell you how many times I talk about the Giants. People just tell me, oh, they stink. And it's like, yeah, that's it. I mean, that's just what it is now. It's like, how are you going to get a younger fan base to be invested in this team? I mean, I grew up with a Giants team. Thankfully, that was much better. But just like, it's just they're becoming a laughingstock.
Yeah, there used to be a pride there.
I used to be proud to be a Giants fan. There used to be a pride there.
Yeah.
But now it just seems like, well, you're a Giants fan. Oh, I feel sorry for you. Like that should never be the case. For this franchise, that should never be the case. But it's the case now.
Yeah, and again, it could be the case for. I mean, it's been the case. Even that year, that playoff year, they still had some tough losses in there. Some really like some bad play. Couldn't win the division. And then obviously before that and after that to this day, and it's going to continue. Right? they're not going to figure it out next year unless they draft a rookie quarterback, and there's a chance there. But nothing's going to change next year. I don't think. I think this is going to be the same crap. And it's probably and God forbid they draft a rookie, and it doesn't work out. He turns out to be a bust. That's like 5-6 years you're setting yourself, out for.
But that's also their problem as well, because they kept Daniel Jones' leash historically longer than any other quarterback ever. We saw Anthony Richardson played 6 games in his NFL career, and he got benched. Yeah, if he got benched for Joe Flacco, Daniel Jones can be, like, once again, only one season where he threw more than 20 passing touchdowns, which is unbelievable to say for a guy who got the start for 6 years in the NFL.
We have to be talking about the Giants more than anybody, any football fan show in the world, because it's just there's nothing to talk about with this team. It's crazy. It's like a New York team, the 2 New York teams. The Jets are at least a talking point because of how bad they've been, and the whole Rodgers is
and
like
at least
a
even
media,
though they're bad, it's so interesting because like them getting Devontae Adams. There's interesting things that have happened for them this season. There's nothing interesting here.
No,
I think that there's good pieces. I think they have like I said, I always said it. I think they have a good foundation. It's just when your offense is that unwatchable, no one's going to care.
Yeah,
it's just the way it is.
It's unbelievable. But we had to get this stuff out, and now who we're playing next? I don't even know.
Buccaneers.
Okay,
and we'll see if it's lock or DeVito, because once again, there's just if Brian Dable comes to this press conference next week and says Jones has started, and I mean, I couldn't tell you what I'll do. What do you think of Daniel Jones?
I just see you lose your mind over him every week. So I've listened to this rant. I think a few times thus far.
So wait, let's look at this. Daniel Jones' contract.
I think they can get out of it after this year, right?
They can, but however, they have to eat I believe it is $20 million in cap. So
unbelievable.
Yeah, well, at least you don't have to deal with him anymore.
Unbelievable.
The difference is you pay him $40 million.
I have another fun stat. Fewest passing touchdowns by a quarterback to start each of their team's first 10 games over the last 5 seasons. Number 1 was 2023 Kenny Pickett. Number 2 was 24 Daniel Jones. 3 Trevor Lawrence. Number 4 was 2020 Daniel Jones. Number 5 was 2022 Daniel Jones. And number 6 was 2021 Daniel Jones. He can't throw passing touchdowns. He can't get in the end zone.
It just feels like he's just some random dude that you pick up off the street. And it's like I can't hate him for that, because he's such he just looks like such an NPC, for lack of a better term.
And he's like the Joe Random of all quarterbacks.
No personality. Nothing stands out about the way he looks or what he does, or anything
the whole
about
Danny
him.
Dimes brand, that was made up by the fans.
Yeah, that's like a meme. That's like a joke. He doesn't do anything interesting. The running, okay, literally any top quarterback can run, but even a little bit.
Even you remember obviously the play in 2020 against the Eagles. Even when he has a great moment, he'll break off for an 80-yard run. He'll trip before the goal line. I mean, I can't think of a more symbolic play of this guy's career.
And so it feels like, I haven't watched the show, but like a Ted Lasso-esque situation. It's just like this random dude who doesn't belong here, not qualified to be here as long as he has, and everyone hates him, but he's just doing what the organization wants him to do.
Exactly.
And you
once
can't.
again,
But I would do a Daniel. I would be Daniel Jones. I would be Daniel Jones better than Daniel Jones.
I mean, how much can we blame him?
I would also take
anyone,
the $40 million to be Daniel Jones.
Yes.
He was a bad
Yeah.
college starter. He should have never been put in the situation of being a
Right.
6th overall pick in the NFL draft. I'll never like the fact that Dave Gettleman went to the Senior Bowl in 2018 and became in love with this guy because he just saw him play in a Senior Bowl. That's forever going to haunt us. I mean, it's a good thing Dave Gettleman was fired, but
they got to make a movie about this. Like this is like I could see like
You want to watch a movie about Daniel Jones?
yeah.
it was just in the modern NFL.
I don't even think you want
like-
to talk about
No,
Daniel
I'm
Jones.
saying
You wanna watch
not
a
about
movie?
Daniel Jones specifically, but like a movie again, just about like some random dude who gets called up to be the quarterback of the Chiefs, and all of a sudden everyone hates him, and it's not like a comedy movie. Like this is something out of like a comedy, like an Adam Sandler comedy movie. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's a movie that's what I'm
There
talking
probably
about.
is,
I know for sure it's like an Adam Sandler movie. I don't know what it is, but there's something along those lines. Like that's ridiculous. This guy has just been here for way too long, and I mean, you figure again, think of all the great rookie quarterbacks and all the great quarterbacks that have switched teams that have had success on other teams since Daniel Jones has been here, right? Even Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers. Right, that was during Daniel Jones' time. Daniel Jones was still the quarterback of the Giants then. Russell Wilson obviously having success now. Lamar Jackson, everything he's done. Joe Burrow making the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes winning
the Chiefs
Super Bowls.
won back-to-back Lombardies in between Daniel Jones's last and next touchdown pass at MetLife Stadium.
It's
How does that
unbelievable.
happen?
No.
That should never happen.
Yeah. We're tearing this man apart right now.
I mean, he deserves
And he
it.
completely deserves
Well,
it.
Oh, yeah.
I've had to stand and watch him for 60. I still can't
Yeah.
believe that he was a starting quarterback.
And
of
this doesn't
team
even
for 6
justify
seasons.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. It really, I don't think it can ever be put into words. And I mean, once again, Brian Dable saved his career, but even then, like I just can't get over how much of a leash this guy was given. It's just in this modern NFL, like if you have a guy who just can't perform, with the quarterback position being the most important position in sports, I just never will ever be able to wrap my head around the fact that it went on this long.
Yeah. I don't even know. I don't even know where else to go, honestly, with the Giants.
Just gotta pray that if we do get there, like, because they do this every year, they always win the most in November, December. Listen, I like Tommy DeVito last year, but let's be honest, that did screw us. It did. So let's hope it doesn't happen again this year. Let's hope we get the number 1 pick. We get our choice of Sanders or Ward, and just we have to pray that it's another Jaden Daniels situation. That's all we can do at this point.
You guys want to do
Want to
back
move
to
on?
baseball? MLB free agents.
Did you get it out?
Did you enjoy it? Did you play Pokemon during that?
No,
Enjoy
I
that?
did. I didn't play Pokemon. Although I wish I did. I mean, I can play Pokemon right now. Honestly, I love technology. Technology is great. Anyways, all right. We moving on to free agents.
All right. Blake Snell, where's he going?
I don't think I have Blake. Wait, okay. I have a
All
note.
right, tell me who you have. Tell me who
All
you
right,
have.
I have Blake
I'll
Snell.
guess.
Or
All right, so Dom obviously did preparation for this. I did no preparation.
AKA, I could not fall asleep at 3 a.m. the other night, and I started writing down my gut feeling on where every free agent is going. So I didn't even really look at these teams. I just kind of was like, okay,
I
this
feel
kind
like
of has a feel to it.
A couple of my answers to these players will be based off what I've seen on Instagram too, what some other people think, because I've heard some really good ideas.
Yeah,
where
I
some
think
guys could
I have
sign.
Blake Snell returning to the Giants,
Okay,
but I could also see him going to Baltimore as well, and maybe Boston. But I think Boston goes another way for an arm. I think Max Fried goes to Boston.
yeah, I don't know if Blake Snell's a fit there. I don't know. I just
San Francisco?
No, the Red Sox. Yeah, sorry.
I think they just need pitching.
I just because
I don't think he's the
6 innings.
I think Max Fried is more of their
Yeah,
type.
it's like a workhorse. I think.
Yeah, I mean their pitching rotation this year threw the least amount of 4-seam fastballs in all of Major League Baseball, and I think it's
That's
the
crazy.
least since I don't even know.
That's
It's a
interesting.
long time since it's like in the modern era or something
Uh-huh.
like that. Crazy because their new pitching philosophy is less 4-seam fastballs. So Tanner Houck, I'm trying
Yeah.
to think, Cutter Crawford, they all cut down their fastball
it's-
usage.
That makes sense.
Under the new GM Craig Breslow, who is
Mhm.
former Major League pitcher, and then also Andrew Bailey, who's their pitching coach.
Right.
So I mean, they're going to be looking for an arm. They're going to be looking for an ace, considering that Chris Sale's now gone. You don't have that ace anymore,
Mhm.
and they're going to want to compete. I don't know if they're quite there yet. I think they're definitely close. Like they have some names in their system that can help them compete soon.
Yeah.
They're gonna be there soon, but the pitching is a little bit. It's promising. Like they had a good year, but I don't know how much. How much do you believe in Cutter Crawford, Tanner Houck? Who else is in that rotation?
Couldn't even tell you.
They have. It's a bunch of like. It's
I feel like they went with a couple
Nick
bullpen.
Pivetta, but he's gone now. They gave him the qualifying offer, but I don't think he's coming back. And then
what's his name? Dominican kid. Bayo.
Brian
Bayo.
Bayo.
Yeah.
He had a bad year.
Yeah.
too.
But they gave him an extension. So I think they believe in
did they
him.
give him an extension this year? Or
I think
year?
last year.
Yeah.
Before the year.
Yeah. He was the only one that didn't have a better year.
What about
He was the only one who was on my fantasy team, by the way, as well.
All
So
right.
I know very well that he wasn't good.
two that are coming
Had a
on?
pretty all-time fantasy year last year, didn't you?
We're not talking about that.
Two players didn't finish last. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, I did not finish last.
Right.
No, I was
Yeah.
Somehow,
last place.
by an act of God.
By an act of God, a miracle. Divine
Snell-
intervention saved my team.
Snell.
It's the only way.
What about return to the Padres? No.
Snell to the Padres. I don't think they have the money. I think they have money. I just don't think that they're gonna spend it on an arm like Snell.
How about the Dodgers?
I think Dodgers could be a move. I just think that they're better pitchers for the Dodgers to consider. I think Max Fried's probably better.
I don't
Walker
know why-
Buehler, they need to give a contract to. I think it's more of a prove it deal at this point.
Yeah.
Even though he was so lights out in the postseason, like he was incredible against the Mets, he was incredible against us. But Bueller's gonna have to get a prove it deal, and it's gonna be like 18 million, something like that.
Yeah, he's the type of guy. Like it's that type of thing where just because he got the final out and because he'd been through so much, it's like you got to give him it's like when the Red Sox signed Eovaldi after they won the World Series. Like you just got to give him a contract at that point for what he did.
Yeah.
Snell, for some reason, for me, fits perfectly because they have that bullpen and they went all those bullpen games, and he pitches like 5-6 innings every start. So I don't know, and something about that left-handed pitcher in that ballpark, you don't know what's gonna happen with Kershaw. But they got obviously Roki Sasaki is the guy that they really want.
Yeah.
I said this last week. I don't know if I said it on air, but the Yankees, if I'm the Yankees,
I don't think Sasaki had been posted by then. So.
Right. Okay.
I think there was rumors at that point. I don't know if we talked about it though.
But yeah. But Roki is a guy. If I'm the Yankees, I know we have the whole thing with Soto, but I'm trying. Doing all I can
it's
to
not
bring
the same
him in.
thing. They're completely different systems. So,
But I'm just saying, is it possible for the
you
Yankees
could absolutely do both.
to do both at once?
Oh, absolutely.
Or give as much
Absolutely, you
effort
could do
into both as
Oh,
much?
yeah. No, I think the Soto thing's gonna be done soon. Honestly, I think it's gonna be done.
So
I think it's gonna be done
for me-
before Christmas. I think we're gonna know.
I'm
Think
doing
winter
he's-
meetings?
I think either before the winter meetings or during the winter meetings, you're gonna hear about Soto. I think Soto's gonna be done around the time that Cole was done.
and
I
ideally
think
we get
that's
him.
good. And ideally we get him. I think it's good. It's gonna be
And
us or the Mets.
You celebrate that.
Yeah.
Do you guys take any stock in the Blue Jays at all? 'Cause I saw
No,
they're making
no,
that
absolutely
push.
not.
No, I think the Blue Jays are going to throw a lot of money at him like they did with Shohei Ohtani, but I don't think he sees the Blue Jays as a viable option.
Yeah, no.
He took meetings with 4 teams. He took meetings with the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, the Mets, and the Yankees. And I think it was in that order.
So
And
I
I
guess
think
the
that was
Dodgers just
kinda
aren't going to
tipping-
make an offer at all. They're just not going to step
I think
in.
he was tipping his hand of what he believe, like what he wants, like where he thinks is like a viable option. And honestly, from that, the Giants didn't take a meeting with him. I didn't see that the Dodgers took a meeting with him, although we've heard rumors that the Dodgers are interested. I don't think the Dodgers are going to go after him.
No.
So
I
would you
don't think
say
they have
that
the money.
maybe he likes the East Coast more than the West Coast?
I
when it
do.
comes
I
down
think
to
there's.
that?
I think
Yeah,
there's
no.
East Coast bias there. I do think there is.
I think it comes down to us in Boston. I've been saying Boston. I think
it's the Mets. I think Boston's
Really?
gonna pick. I think Boston, either Corbin Burns or Max Fried, and then I think I could see Teoscar Hernandez getting a contract from Boston. They were very close to signing him last year, and then he ended up going to the Dodgers. I think it's gonna be they're gonna be competing with the Dodgers for Teoscar Hernandez, and then. Yeah, they're really gonna have to.
I just
focus on
don't think
pitching.
Boston has the same urgency to do it as the Mets do. I mean,
The Mets
No,
absolutely do
no.
have an urgency.
But-
So yeah, I agree with you on that.
I mean,
just-
also it's an easier sell too, right? I mean, he can live in the same place he did for the
Right.
Yankees.
Yeah.
Just has to just go to a different ballpark. So I think
Yeah.
that plays a factor.
Yeah, and I think even the dimensions of Citi Field match well for him better than Yankee Stadium. because I know everyone talks about the short porch, but left field at City Field is very favorable to him.
When he got traded here, one of the things people were talking about was the fact that Soto likes to push a lot of balls the other way, and even though he's a lefty, I mean, he does benefit from the short porch, but that left center field is so deep, and it's kind of hard to hit one out, like push a ball there that you're really not hammering out there. Like that's like it is probably the hardest place to hit a ball to left center.
And he still hit a couple shots out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but I mean, City Field's pretty big, so I don't know.
It's got a weird right center because
it's got it juts back in, right? It has the anti-short porch over there.
But what I was saying about Roki is just something about him. I think it's really like sticking it to the Dodgers as best as you can. Going as soon as you get, if you ideally get Soto done, all out. I'm talking. I wouldn't focus on another aspect of this team until Roki is signed, and I would do whatever I can to bring.
You wouldn't
him over.
focus on first and third.
I mean, eventually, yeah.
So
but
I think first and third are either going to be filled by probably going to be filled by trades or internal options.
I mean, I've heard Durbin's name get thrown out a lot.
Durbin has been on fire in the Arizona Fall League, and he broke the record for Arizona Fall League stolen bases. Like yesterday or something like that. He was also in the All-Star game for the Arizona Fall League. There was another Yankees prospect in the Home Run Derby, so they've all been doing pretty good. The Yankees have been showing out in the Arizona Fall League.
And I know Christian Walker's a guy that they really like, and I like him too. Personally, I think he's a good fit.
I think the problem is can Durbin play third? Because I don't feel comfortable keeping Jazz still out of position. I'd rather Jazz play second.
Durbin's a middle to corner infielder, so I mean you're not going to put him at short, obviously, but you could put him at third.
It's just I don't feel comfortable with Jazz just permanently staying at third base. I want to go back to his natural position.
Durbin has more of a build of a second baseman, though. I mean, he's 5'6". Yeah,
it's basically like an Altuve build out there.
He's really. Yeah, I mean, he gives you solid pop for his size, but he's more of a. I mean, he sprays the ball, he elevates, pretty well. I looked at the Statcast data of his Arizona Fall League stint. He's, I think, 30% ground ball, 30% line drive, 30% fly ball, which is like, is like pretty rare. That someone is able to do that. So, and it's good. That's really promising. He's been barreling the ball at 10% of.
How old is he right now?
Durbin is 23. He's on the older side. I think he's. I think he's.
I'll take a look.
You know what? He might be 24. I think he's like just younger than Juan Soto. I think I saw something about that.
And I mean, we've seen plenty of short second basemen have success in this league.
Absolutely.
Dustin Pedroia for a while. Altuve is going to probably be a Hall of Famer. But yeah, I really want to push that Roki point home because, dude, it first of all it would take international pool money, right?
Yeah. So
that's not like your payroll.
Yeah.
It's
so the
like
Yankees
Yamamoto.
the Yankees have about $1 or $2 million left in their international pool. Dodgers have about $4 million. I don't think it's going to come down to money though. Really, what it is, it's going to be about fit. Because either way, it's going to be like, the difference between $4 to $2 million isn't really that crazy in the grand scheme of things, especially considering he's basically passing up on a $300 million contract by staying in the NPB for like a couple of years. There's a couple red flags with Roki, so I want to talk about that. He had dead arm last year. His velocity was dipping. He sat out a part of the season. He really wasn't the type of pitcher that we know he can be. He's still a dog, and I think Major League front offices recognize that, obviously. And you're getting him at pennies on the dollar of what he's worth. So obviously, you're not deterred by that. But he's not the type of guy that you can take and now plug into your rotation and say that he's going to be an ace. He's not going to be your ace right away. He's a little bit of a project, and I think people aren't really realizing that he's a prospect more than he's an ace at the moment. Yeah. He's going to need some Paul Skeens like management. You have to manage that arm, especially when someone's throwing 100 miles an hour at he's 23, and those Japanese guys have crazy mileage on their arms. Just they're durable. They're durable pitchers. They're pretty durable because they've thrown so much. But there is like a level that he's been throwing high volume since high school, And like, if you know anything about how crazy Japanese high school
Coach.
coaches and teams, and just how crazy competitive that is. It's almost like high school football in Texas, but even more crazy, because their competition, they have like a playoff in I forget what it's called, but they have a tournament that is insane, and like these kids are become celebrities, and like they throw 140 pitches and then come out the next day and throw another complete game. Like that is the expectation that's laid onto these aces of these high school, like 18 year olds. So I mean, it's crazy competitive environment, and it's really not it's going to be a big change. Also, the MPB ball, I'm pretty sure, is smaller than the MLB ball.
Oh yeah.
So there's going to be adjustment there. He needs to refine a little bit of his arsenal. He has I saw Lance, what's his last name? Brojowski or something. I don't know. He's a pitching guru.
Okay.
Talk about how he could add a splinker, like how Paul Skeens has one, because he has the ability to throw hard. He has that arm talent, but he doesn't really spin the ball as nicely as you would like. His fastball I think is like 101. I mean, he has a similar fastball to like velocity wise to Ohtani. And he's going to be focusing only on pitching, so it's going to be good. He's an athletic kid. I mean, but he's a smaller frame. He's exciting. It's really exciting.
I think
a tremendous talent.
It's just because the Yankees don't have much prospects in the pitching side of things.
I disagree.
Well, I'm just saying that's not what I'm saying. I guess,
but I mean,
close.
Yeah. Well, there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are some guys, but no one who I would say is like going to be an ace,
right?
Which is that's the.
And I think that's why I think Roki fits so well here. Is you can be patient with him.
Absolutely.
And I don't think the Dodgers can. I think
they can.
I don't know, because you figure Glasnow, Ohtani, Yamamoto.
That's still a big window. I mean, I disagree that they don't.
There's a fourth starter. They were going with bullpen games in the playoffs.
That's true, but I think Sasaki's not going to spend. He's not going to come over here and spend an entire year in AAA.
Right.
So
no, but I'm saying
he's not going to get major league volume. He's not going to throw 200 innings in the year, but he'll probably spend a lot of the year in maybe half the year in the pros, if not the whole year. But he's not going to, he's not obviously not going to be starting for all that. I mean, he might be in the bullpen at some point. I don't know what the plan is. Each team's going to have to throw out their own kind of development plan for him. And he's going to have to choose which one is the best for him. The thing that as a Yankee fan, I would love to see Roki Sasaki. As a Yankee, I just think the chance is moderately low.
Right. And I
think it's there's a chance.
Yeah.
And like, I think the chance of us getting Sasaki is lower than it was for Yamamoto.
Well, what I'll say, it all comes down to what he wants, right? I think he has a better chance to make a name for himself in the Bronx if it pans out.
Masahiro Tanaka, a lifelong fan, actually. He grew up right where the Rakuten Golden Eagles play.
And Tanaka was great here. We love him. Sure. And I know he's not Japanese, but Shin-Min Wang was a cult hero from Taiwan with the Yankees for a couple of years, and injuries got to him, but he was excellent in his first couple of years in Major League Baseball with the Yankees, and it took him a while to get to that point, right? As like eventual ace for the Yankees for a couple of years in 07 and 08. So I mean, Asian players have done very well in the Bronx, and
Matsu as well. But you're talking about pitching,
right? And so he has a chance to make a name for himself in the Bronx, whereas he's joining the three-headed monster in the Dodgers rotation as just a name that they're trying to work into that rotation. I just think he has a better chance to make a name for himself, but maybe he wants to join, the two great Japanese players in the Dodgers.
So I've also heard that I've seen that he might be considering a smaller market team that's good in development. One team that kind of fits that, especially location-wise, is the Mariners. Big market for Japanese pitchers. You had Yusei Kikuchi there a couple of years ago. Ichiro, obviously. Yeah. I mean, there's been plenty of Japanese players going through there, but also they develop pitching very well. And he would probably be the guy there. I mean, and he would be heading he would be heading a rotation that is very formidable. I mean, you'd have him, then you'd have Logan Gilbert, George Kirby. You still have Luis Castillo,
Right.
who I don't know if they're going to hold on to with the contract that he has. Apparently, it's looking like they might want to trade him. But they developed Brian Wo's also there.
Yeah.
So great, like really good pitching development there. I don't think the Giants have a chance, but the Padres could. The Padres develop players very well. Maybe not so much as they don't really develop pitching as well as they develop, their hitters, but could see that as being an option. Honestly, I think the more I think about it, the more I like sit with it. I think the Dodgers probably have the best chance. And then maybe it's like the Mariners or Padres like tied for the second best chance. And then it's like kind of the Yankees, Mets, and then whoever else is really in the race here. Maybe the Cubs. I don't know. The Cubs are also a big one. You have Shoto Iminaga and Seiya Suzuki. I'm probably missing a few other Asian players that they've had throughout the years. Those are just the ones that are on their team currently, though.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's going to be an arms race for him because he's just insanely talented and he's basically on the open market for nothing. And that's going to be exciting. That'll be exciting, and that'll be done. I would say before we come back for winter break, that'll be done. I don't know when exactly they're going to post him. They haven't posted him yet. It's a 45-day posting period. So once they post him, he has 45 days to negotiate with teams on a contract. And obviously, it's not going to be as much about contract as much as it's going to be about because he's subject to MLB international rules, amateur rules. But it's going to be more about the fit. And if the Yankees can present themselves as being the best fit, I mean, you could be looking at, that could be we can be having a very different discussion in a couple months.
Yeah.
Hopefully that is the case, but I got my hopes up with Yamamoto. I was really hoping that we would sign Yamamoto, but it just didn't work out at the end. And I don't know. I can't really bring myself to feel the same way about that I did with Sasaki. I feel like I'm setting myself up for failure there. But again, very talented kid. I'm excited to see what he does in the major leagues.
Who else you got on your list? Other free agents?
I had Corbin Burns.
Yeah, Red Sox.
I know I have Mets. Corbin Burns.
That's interesting. No, I think that's
because
that's a good fit.
Because I have
obviously.
On this list, I have Soto going to the Yankees, and then I have the Mets going on a little bit of a spending spree here.
I forgot where I saw this. What would you think of Sean Manaea going to the Yankees?
I did see that. I wanted Sean Manaea last year. I don't know if
Really?
I want him this year. I don't know if I'm going to want that contract.
I would take Sean Manaea.
The contract that you're going to have to give him, though, I don't know if that's worth it.
Yeah, I mean he's been great, but it's just like, is that sustainable?
Sean Manaea's success?
Yeah,
I think it could be.
Was that just a fluke? I mean, it was a long stretch, but are we looking at like Blake Snell's 2022 Cy Young, like where he was just like, I mean, he was great this past year, but like that was like a long streak of just being incredible. That's kind of what it felt like with Manaea. It's like randomly chooses to go Chris Sale's sidearm, and he has success.
I don't think the Yankees are in the market for a pitcher that isn't named Roki Sasaki and isn't a bullpen arm. Sean Manaea is going to be a starter. That's what he's going to be signed to be. You're going to give him starter money. If you're signing Sean Manaea, you're giving him starter money. So there makes no sense. It makes no sense to expect him to be a bullpen arm. The other thing is they don't like the Yankees. The Yankees rotation right now is set. You have almost too many names there. So you have Cole, you have Rodon, obviously going to be there. Stroman's a little bit of a wild card, but you're still paying him, so they're not releasing him. I can't imagine a world where they just DFA him. Yeah. He wasn't that bad. He's tradable. I think that's tradable. Now, whether or not they end up trading him, I don't know. I thought that they could have traded Josh Donaldson. I thought they could have traded Aaron Hicks, obviously before he was terrible, but they never did. And the Yankees rarely do these salary dumps. The last time they really did a salary dump was like Adam Ottavino when they traded him to the Red Sox with a prospect. I don't know if they're gonna salary dump Marcus Stroman. I think they might just write it out and DFA him once it's too much. But then if you go beyond those three guys that are getting paid, you have Nestor Cortez, you have Clark Schmidt, and you have Luis Hill, and then you have players. You have other guys in minor leagues who are knocking on the door. You have Will Warren, who was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mince words there, but he's a very similar pitcher to Clark Schmidt, very similar arsenal, sinker slider type of guy. A little bit higher walks with Will Warren. He doesn't really control it as well. He has a nice knuckle curve. Just like a 6-pitch kind of guy, like kind of has the kitchen sink that he can throw at you. I don't know if he's really a major league starter. He could be like a 4 or 5. I used to think that the ceiling on him was a 3. I don't know if I'm as high on him now. He struggled in AAA. I mean, AAA has also just been a hostile run environment recently for pitching, especially. It's been bad for pitching. But I mean, we could see. I don't know if he'll be. I don't know if he'll be anything. You have Chase Hampton, who's coming off injury now, and they just drafted a ton of pitching. So I think the Yankees like to use their pitch. Well, I think I know that the Yankees love to use their pitching development to kind of trade up. They did it with Juan Soto. They traded Michael King and they traded Drew Thorpe in that deal. They did it. What else did they do it? I'm missing something.
Well, you're saying trading young pitching?
Yeah. Actually, they didn't really do it with Jazz Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm was all position players, but
no, yeah,
they do it with Gallo.
Yeah. Glenn Otto.
But that was mostly centerpiece of middle infield prospects.
Frankie Montas. That was a big one.
Yeah, Frankie Montas
JP
was,
Sears,
and then Scott Efros. They traded Wesneski. Yeah, I thought Wesneski and Waldichuk would be the truth, but they never even they both fell off. But they also, I mean, Waldichuk is getting surgery. I think Wesneski had a good stretch with the Cubs for a little bit, but then he kind of fell off a little bit. So we'll see what happens there with those guys. Chase Hampton, I think, is probably you got a few guys. So you have Chase Hampton. You also have Ben Hess, who they drafted in the first round this last year. Bryce Cunningham, who they gave, I think, either almost the same bonus or a higher bonus than they gave to Ben Hess. He got a lot. I mean, he got a good amount of money, and I think he's the best pick that they made. I mean, they took, I want to say, like 20 rounds in the major league draft and MLB draft now. I think they took 17 or like 15 pitchers, like an outrageous number. They didn't sign one kid in the 20th round. They didn't take any high school arms. They took all college arms. I think those top 5 guys are all going to be, they're all going to be developed as starters. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with those guys, but I think Ben Hess, they took a lot of durable, I think Ben Hess, the comparison that I saw for him a lot was like Lance Lynn, like 6'5", bulky. He's had a couple, back problems. I think there's a little bit of conditioning that needs to be done there, but he's going to be in Major League org. I trust the Yankees pitching development. I don't know if he's going to be the guy or like a guy that comes up and is that they let become a pitcher in this organization, a player. But the Yankees this past year, their first and second round picks were the highest pitchers that they had taken in the Matt Blake era, higher than Brendan Beck, who is the second, or is now the third highest pitcher that he's taken in a draft. Brendan Beck hasn't really become anything because he's always been injured, but hopefully we get health and good performance out of that pitching. That kind of took a little bit of a step back this year. They didn't really have someone who broke through. There was one guy who had a good year. I'm blanking on the name though. Cade Smith. Cade Smith had a good year. So Cade Smith, not to be confused with the Guardians reliever Cade Smith. The Yankees have Cade Smith as well. So I trust the Yankees pitching development to churn out guys to fill holes in the rotation, but also to be able to be sent in trades. And I think you'll see that be done. That's why I think the Yankees are going to probably trade for like maybe either a first baseman or a third baseman, whatever they choose to do. There's a few names out there that I'm interested in. Back to the free agency stuff, because people are signing already. Also, what the heck are the Angels doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Travis Darno.
Don't they have
What are we
Logan
doing?
O'Hoppe?
Yeah, they do. And Logan O'Hoppe, and they've clogged up all of their positions. So they traded for Jorge Soler and traded a 25-year-old pitcher, Kevin Canning, who's been, not amazing, but he hasn't been bad. And he's been, he's a young pitcher. So like for Jorge Soler and taking all of his contract, it's like, it makes no sense.
I don't know.
And you're just clogging up your DH with Jorge Soler now when you kind of needed to have that open for Mike Trout. You have Nolan Shanwell at first, who I think is not very good, but
yeah,
he's there. He's there. He gets on base. He's good leadoff hitter, but he doesn't really, he doesn't have the athleticism of a traditional leadoff hitter. He doesn't really have any pop, especially for a first baseman.
Zach Neto.
Zach Neto's been great.
Yeah.
Had a great breakout season, that was good for them. I mean, O'Hoppe had a really good year, but now he's going to have to compete with Travis Darno for reps at the catching position. So I don't know what Perry Managian is doing there. He got extended, and I just didn't understand that either. They really are just like, they have money too. Moreno spends, like, they're just not like they don't know how to build a winner. I don't know what it is. Like, they've had two of the best players of our probably the two best players of our generation in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on the same team at the same time at one point. For 6 years they played together, and they couldn't do anything with it. They haven't made a playoff appearance since Mike Trout's rookie year, I think, or 2013, 2014. So all right, a little bit off, but basically one of his first 2 years. That's incredibly bad. And Mike Trout was incredible. He was like, remember how dominant Mike Trout was? Yeah. He was the guy. He was the no doubt best player in baseball for like 7 years. And like even until like Ohtani took off, then you were making arguments for other players. But Trout was like, had a monopoly on the GOAT of baseball at the time, and like no doubt Hall of Famer at this point probably too. And you still couldn't do anything with them. Like, you still couldn't do anything with them. I mean, it's incredible how poverty and how terribly managed and organized that franchise is. It's a tragedy because they're in Los Angeles. I mean, Anaheim, but like they're in that market, and they're the Mets of that market. But now the Mets obviously have, I think, have kind of dealt with their I can't say it.
No, yeah.
They've kind of dealt with their garbage.
They figured stuff out.
I think they're starting to figure their stuff out. So David Stearns, I think, was an incredible hire.
Yeah.
Moreno just needs to sell that team. That team is garbage.
I say, though, since we're running out of time here, make sure you read off the rest of your list. We hear all the other predictions.
All right. I have Pete Alonso going back to the Mets, or I have the Tampa Bay Rays. I think that would be an interesting thing. I think that they have a little bit of a short porch in left field that would kind of benefit him a little bit. I just think that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to do something sneaky, like stupid almost. That's going to be like kind of funny. And I think Pete Alonso, there's a chance that there's not a huge market for him because first baseman, like the same thing that happened with Freddie Freeman, and then like a small market team kind of swoops in and takes him. I think that's the thought process behind that happening. I have Anthony Santander going to the Seattle Mariners or the Toronto Blue Jays. I have Bregman returning to Houston. Shaman I have going to the Toronto Blue Jays. Walker Buehler I have staying with the Dodgers. Tatis Hernandez going to Los Angeles or to Boston. Tanner Scott I have coming to the Yankees. And then I have Nathan Eovaldi going back or staying in Texas. I have Tyler O'Neill here, but I didn't obviously I didn't make a prediction.
Call your shot right now.
Call my shot. Oh god. I don't think he's gonna stay with the Red Sox because they had like, you know what?
Just throw me a team, any team.
The Brewers have space in their outfield? Not really, right? Chorio,
Yelich.
Mitchell, Yelich.
Yeah, no.
I won't hold it against you if you're wrong.
Well, I'm trying to give you a good answer though.
The New York Yankees.
No. You know what would be a good fit? Probably the Mariners.
Yeah.
Mariners always need a bat, like desperately need a bat. Yeah, just so feeble on offense.
What do you think of Shane Bieber?
I think he's staying with Cleveland.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. He didn't. He's gonna have to sign a 1-year, 2-year deal.
I'm a big Shane Bieber guy.
I love Shane Bieber.
I would love him on the Yankees.
I would love him on the Yankees, but like I told you, I don't think the Yankees are gonna.
But that feels like a Corey Kluber esque signing. Like
not
working
exactly.
him back.
Well, not exactly.
Like being formerly of Cleveland.
Well, because
and I would think a huge reason that why Shane Bieber got to the big leagues in the first place.
Kluber was more or less past his prime by the time the. I mean,
yeah. But this is
Kluber,
again.
Kluber threw a no-hitter for us, which was incredible to watch. But like,
all right. So then a better example. This is like Jameson Taillon, like has success, but was dealing with that injury, the Tommy John.
Shane Bieber is better than Jameson Taillon was.
So but this just feels like that type of signing.
It could work.
I think it can. Make sense.
It could work with
contract.
Matt Blake, being from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Being the Cleveland's former pitching development guy. But do I think that there's a high percentage chance that he goes to the Yankees than he does Cleveland? Absolutely not. I think if they don't get Roki, I think
they should go get.
I think they're better. Honestly, I think they're better fits than the Yankees for Shane Bieber, and Bieber's going to go to probably his best. It's going to be similar to Roki. It's really not going to be as much about money as it is going to be about fit. Who does really well with that is the Giants. They do very well with taking injured or rehabbing guys on a prove it deal. They did it with Blake Snell. They did it with Carlos Rodon. They did it with Sean Manaea, although they didn't really work out. They've done it so many times. Oh, they did it with most recently with Jordan Hicks.
All right.
They do it all the time, and I would look to see that happening again. Like they're gonna do it with someone else again. I don't know. I think we're kind of out of time.
Yeah, I think that's all the time we have.
So I said this last week, and I'll say it again. I don't know what we're talking about next week because I guess we'll just have to wait and see if something, maybe we'll talk about the Giants.
About Pokemon.
We like to keep our viewers on their toes.
Absolutely.
2024 election.
We could be talking about
Donald
the
Trump's
Giants.
Current incoming administration.
We could be talking about a big free agent signing in Major League Baseball.
Oh yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Anything.
Anything can happen. Juan Soto signing with the Yankees, re-signing with the Yankees.
Or everything could go downhill.
14 years, $600 million.
Or it could be with the Mets, and we'll come on here
and then we'll just be crying the entire time.
Yeah, but I'm sure everyone.
We'll each give each other 20 minutes to rant and cry about Juan Soto signing with the Mets.
All right, well that's all the time we have for today. He's Dom, he's Chris, I'm Colin. This is the Woodlawn Station. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon.
Ugh.